Okay, good morning, everyone. Fellow Commissioners, Chief Choi, Executive Director Django Sibley, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Madam Secretary, Mr. City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Shields, Garcia, Sanchez Gordon are present, and we have a quorum. Madam Vice President?
Thank you. And I hear some people talking in the audience. If you continue talking, you will be asked to leave. So we welcome everyone attending this morning, both in person and online. We want to ensure all members of the public can access our meetings. So if you need any translation services or accommodations, we encourage you to contact the board secretary in advance of our meetings as explained in our written agenda. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. We welcome feedback from the public during the public comment period, which will be heard during item number 3 on the agenda today. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You can speak to any item on the agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. As explained in the written agenda, each member of the public can have a total of up to 3 minutes to speak if you wish to speak on both agenda items and general public comment. While we welcome public attendance at our meetings, disruptive behavior will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal. You will receive just one warning, and if you continue disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave and be removed from the meeting. And before I move on to item 1 on the agenda, we have a couple of changes to the agenda. Item 5A will be taken off this agenda. Item 7 will be continued to another date. With that, we can move to item number 1 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police, Assistant Chief Choi.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Executive Director Mr. Sibley. So today I'm going to be covering key events from the past 2 weeks, sharing our latest crime trends, and providing an update on our staffing levels. I'm going to start with a notification of a death of a department employee. So on August 10th, Police Officer 2, Hector De Leon Saldana, assigned to Wilshire Division, was tragically killed in an ATV accident while camping with his family and friends. This was a sudden and heartbreaking loss for his loved ones and for our department family. We are making sure that his family is supported during this difficult time, as well as his colleagues at Wilshire area who served alongside him. I also ask that you keep Officer De Leon Saldana's family and friends in your thoughts and prayers. Then moving on August 10th, 2025, at approximately 2:55 a.m., a vandalism hate crime occurred at the Israeli-American Council located at 6530 Winnetka Avenue, where swastikas were drawn in and around the property. This location serves as a gathering place for Israeli and Jewish communities. Officers responded, documented the crime, recovered surveillance footage, and coordinated with the city graffiti task force, which quickly removed the graffiti. 1 week later, on August 17th, at approximately 1:35 p.m., West Valley patrol officers responded to Wilbur Charter Elementary School for a vandalism hate crime. Officers found multiple swastikas drawn on a vinyl sign attached to the school's exterior fence. During the investigation, they also learned that a similar crime had taken place at the school in July, but had not been previously reported. In this most recent incident, nearby video captured a male suspect pacing in front of the sign before defacing it and then leaving the area. Both of these crimes involve the use of swastikas, symbols meant to intimidate and spread fear. For our Jewish community, they are not just markings on a wall or a fence. They are deeply painful reminders of hatred and violence. LAPD's Major Crimes Division has assumed investigative responsibility and is working to see if these incidents are connected and to identify the individual or individuals responsible. Then on August 14th at approximately 6:15 p.m., Mission Patrol officers responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon, suspect armed with a firearm. in front of Arleta Avenue and Branford Street. While en route, multiple callers reported that the suspect, later identified as Lorenzo Sandoval, was walking along Arleta Avenue pointing a gun at passing vehicles. Officers located Sandoval walking south on the west sidewalk of Arleta Avenue, armed with a firearm in his right hand. The officers issued commands for Sandoval to drop the weapon, which he ignored and continued to walk away. Officers notified Communications Division of their location and that Sandoval was armed, prompting the generation of a help call. Multiple units responded. Suddenly, Sandoval turned and faced the officers while armed, and this resulted in an officer-involved shooting. Sandoval was struck by gunfire, fell to the ground, and was taken into custody. He was transported to a local hospital and treated for a gunshot wound to his left leg and cleared for booking. No other officers or community members were injured during the incident. A replica handgun was recovered at the scene and was booked as evidence. Force Investigation Division personnel responded and are handling the investigation. On August 15th, around 3 p.m., officers from Southwest Division responded to a shooting call at the 1800 block of West 38th Street. Air 18 from our department helicopter fleet also responded and was overhead during the incident. Officers located the suspect and recovered an AR-15 rifle along with numerous 5.56 casings. Fortunately, no victims were found at the scene. The suspect was taken into custody for discharging a firearm in the city limits. Shortly after, when the oncoming flight crew conducted a pre-flight inspection of Air 18, they discovered that the aircraft had been struck by gunfire during the incident. One round went through the tail boom and another hit the horizontal stabilizer. The estimated repair cost for this damage is $350,000. Because of this discovery, Robbery Homicide Division Homicide Special Section assumed investigative responsibility. The suspect's charges were updated to include assault with a firearm on a peace officer, and detectives also served search warrants at the suspect's residence the following day and recovered additional ammunition. This case will be presented to the District Attorney's Office at Crimes Against Peace Officers section for prosecution. On August 7th, Metropolitan Division's B Platoon had been tracking a burglary crew known as the Celebrity Crew, believed to be responsible for numerous high-profile burglaries across several areas of the city, including West Valley, Hollywood, Wilshire, West LA, West Hollywood, and Northeast. Officers conducted surveillance in Compton at the residence of one of the suspects and observed 4 individuals leave in a gold-plated Mercedes. The suspects were tracked to a home on Las Palmas Avenue, where, with the assistance of our air unit, officers confirmed that a burglary had just occurred. Officers continued to track the suspect's vehicle while waiting for additional resources. The suspects eventually stopped in an alley on Metler Street within our 77th Division and fled on foot. Metropolitan C Platoon responded and a perimeter was established. And with the help of K-9, all 4 suspects were located and taken into custody. Detectives later served a search warrant at 2 locations, the one on Metler Street and the one residence in Compton. Both locations, stolen property connected to burglaries were recovered. In addition, officers recovered a high-capacity firearm magazine in Compton, leading to additional arrests for possession of that item. In total, 4 suspects were booked for burglary, and 1 additional suspect was booked for possession of a large-capacity magazine. Detectives are continuing their investigation to determine the full scope of crimes committed and are working to return stolen property to its rightful owners. On August 13th, LAPD's Operation South Bureau Human Trafficking Task Force, in partnership with federal and local agencies, conducted a significant operation targeting a local criminal street gang. The operation was a coordinated investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Homeland Security Investigations, and our Community Safety Unit. This effort resulted in multiple federal indictments, arrests, and the rescue of victims. 11 federal indictments were issued against gang members under a RICO conspiracy, including sex trafficking of minors. 4 suspects had been previously arrested nationwide, and 7 were outstanding at the time of the incident. In addition, a female gang member was indicted for firearms offenses. On August 13th, LAPD led 4 search warrant operations, arresting 2 suspects through mobile takedowns, while HSI, supported by LAPD, served 5 additional search warrants. Resulted, the results included 6 suspects arrested on federal warrants, 1 suspect arrested for human trafficking of a minor, 1 suspect remains outstanding, and a warrant is entered into the National or NCIC, 1 juvenile female rescued by the task force, 1 adult victim provided service through DCFS and Saving Innocence, 8 firearms received, and 35 bottles of promethazine were seized. This operation demonstrates LAPD's commitment to dismantling organized crime and protecting vulnerable populations from human trafficking. And then finally, before I move on to our crime trends, on August 11th, detectives from our robbery special section, with the assistance of our Operations Westboro Gun Violence Reduction Task Force, apprehended 2 suspects connected to a crime spree targeting multiple 7-Eleven stores. Over a 2-day period, August 7th and August 9th, these individuals were responsible for 6 robberies across Van Nuys and Foothill. These same suspects were also tied to several additional robberies in neighboring jurisdictions, including Glendale, Pasadena, Norwalk, Temple City, and La Palma. Both suspects have an extensive criminal history. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office has filed 16 felony counts against each of them. Then moving on to crime. For the 4-week period from July 20th through August 16th, 2025, compared to the prior 4-week period, overall Part 1 crime in the city is down nearly 9.9%. That's 812 fewer crimes. Person crimes are down 8.5%, and property crimes are down 10.3%. Our homicides continue to trend downward. Year to date, we're down 54 homicides compared to the same time last year, a decrease of more than 27%. For the most recent 4-week period, homicides are down 11% compared to the prior 4 weeks. Our victims shot are also down year to date. We have 55 fewer victims shot than last year, representing an 8% reduction. And comparing the past 4 weeks to the prior 4 weeks, we see victims shot dropped almost 8% as well. Aggravated assaults citywide are down 6.4% over the past 4 weeks. Robberies citywide are down 11.1%, or 65 fewer cases over the past 4 weeks, with a reduction in both strong-arm robberies and robberies involving firearms. In addition, firearm recoveries are up nearly 8% year to date. Burglaries are down 10% overall for a 4-week period. Residential burglaries dropped 14.7%, which represents 74 fewer incidents. On the non-residential side, we saw a decrease of 8.1%, or 28 fewer cases than the previous 4 weeks. And finally, motor vehicle thefts are down over 8% compared to the prior 4 weeks. Overall, while we're seeing a citywide reduction in violent and property crime, we continue to monitor areas with localized increases to ensure we're deploying our resources properly. Our personnel strength, sworn personnel as of August 18th is 8,711. Civilian personnel staffing is at 2,595, and our reserve officers are at 345. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief. I will start with questions from my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Garcia?
Good morning. Thank you, Chief. So you share the crime stats, and it seems like a lot of them are down. I'm curious to know if 911 calls are down as well. And really, I ask that question because is there a trend in the recent months with what's happening with the ICE raids where folks are just not calling 911 or reporting stuff?
I don't know if the number of 911 calls are down, but I can get you that information today.
Okay, thank you.
That's a great question, and hopefully we're not preventing people from actually seeking help from law enforcement when they need it because of the continued ICE raids. Commissioner Sanchez-Gorin, any questions?
Have some questions. Yes, Chief, I'm also curious to find out more information about 911 calls. Compare them to perhaps 911 calls that came in the first quarter of the year to what we might be seeing now and towards the end of the year. If that could be given, that would be great. Also, regarding the incident on August 13th, the South Bureau operation on the street gang, was it more than one street gang, or was it a focus of one particular street gang?
It was one particular street gang.
Okay. Also, my last question is, I congratulate you on your crime report. It seems like in every factor, the crime incidents were down, and that's always good news for our city. I know that the property crime is also very challenging, and I'm looking forward to also hearing in the near future that that property crime statistic is down as well. And I think that's all I have this morning.
Thank you. And Chief, thank you for your report and condolences to both the family of the officer who was tragically killed and all of his friends throughout the department. With regards to the hate crimes that you were discussing, it is unfortunate to hear that there was an incident of like a hate incident that was not previously reported because that does undermine the department's ability to investigate. So, and I really want to encourage the public whenever this happens, in the event that there's any videotape that could be gathered right at that moment, uh, are you, something, can you confirm to the community that this is something that the department's taking seriously and wants to investigate and make sure that they're aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we say it often, if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. This was discussed with the school itself. And you can even report hate incidents online now through our core system. So we're making every effort to make sure all these crimes, whether they're incidents or they're crimes of hate, are reported and brought to our attention so we can properly take action. Even if they're but even if they're incidents, we can start to see trends or patterns and take some, preemptive action as well. They don't have to just be crimes to be reported to us.
Thank you. And I commend all of the department personnel that were involved in the significant arrests that you mentioned, particularly those involving, the trafficking of minors and other vulnerable members of our community, and those targeting, the serial robbers. I get those citizen app alerts a little too frequently of another 7-Eleven getting robbed, so hopefully those will decrease in the future. A couple of things that I did want to ask about that it wasn't part of the report is, as these ICE enforcements continue, so do the First Amendment assemblies. I drive through areas of people raising signs, peaceful, people honking, all good things. Sometimes that the protests are ones that cannot continue for certain types of conduct happening. Can you, and without getting into too much detail about ongoing litigation, I do want to ask about the department's treatment of media during First Amendment assemblies. And really, I want to understand, like, explaining to us, what is the department's expectation on officers of how they're supposed to treat media, both those that are visibly media and maybe those that are not visibly media. And then also, how is the department communicating those expectations on the officers?
Sure. So we've done a lot of things. This has been an issue that we've been dealing with for quite some time. But back in May, our training bulletin regarding media was updated, and that was distributed to all department employees. There was another notice that the chief put out probably 3 to 4 weeks ago regarding a restraining order, temporary restraining order not to target media in these First Amendment protests. That was distributed. But we've been doing ongoing training. Even when I was interim, we updated our media manual, with also addressed identifying media and what to do if you can't identify media. So a couple things. When media is present at a First Amendment protest or First Amendment event, several media you can just identify readily. Mainstream media, they have their network on their shirt or they're easily identified. But then there's other media that you can't identify, that don't have anything identifiable, and they're using a cell phone to film, which is still appropriate. They're still a media member or journalist, whatever they may be. But our officers have a difficult time identifying them quickly. So I would ask that if that happens and you are media, please identify yourself prior to being detained or arrested after a dispersal order. So it would be helpful so we don't have these detentions.
Sorry, Please, you will have an opportunity for public comment. If you continue to interrupt, we will ask that you leave. So please listen to Assistant Chief.
Yeah, but if media doesn't feel that the need or the want to identify themselves prior to being detained, but if a dispersal order has been broadcasted and the officers are moving the group and somebody doesn't move and ends up getting detained, and then afterwards is identified, that there'll be a process, and we ask our officers to do whatever is reasonable to try and identify that person as media if they're claiming so, and if they can't, they immediately call a supervisor and have that supervisor deal with that issue. And that is being done out there.
And how, like, what are the different ways that someone who hasn't previously identified themselves as media doesn't have, like, the big camera crew that, like, what are some of the things that they can do to identify themselves as media? Because obviously you don't want everyone at a protest to claim that they're media once there's a dispersal order just to avoid getting detained.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, when they're detained, the person that is being detained is gonna have to be patient until the officer can reasonably take efforts to determine if they're media or not, right? We can't stop and pull everybody off the line for that purpose, but that's why part of our policy is to immediately request a supervisor and let that person handle that. Also, we have media teams that'll respond as deployment allows that work for our media relations division that'll go out there and take that task over from the officers that are doing the tactical operations so they can move off to the side and handle that issue. So there's several ways that we try our best to identify as quickly as possible if somebody's part of the media, so we don't have to keep them detained.
And I know we don't require like credentials, like, specific press credentials, but are there other types of, like, a card or something that identifies themselves as media? Is that other types of, information that they can readily have on them that they could provide to avoid?
Sure. There's business cards or networks that somebody may be associated with. We just ask that our officers are using reasonable means to try and identify that they're media, so.
Thank you, Chief. One other question I had was about street takeovers. They seem to be continuing. And I know that there are, members of our community that are very frustrated by some videos and images that they see where it looks like, again, they've really taken over an entire area and police are not visibly there. Can you talk about, what the department is doing to try to control this? Do we have the resources to do so? Is there other things that we are looking at, even potentially changes in legislation that could help solve this problem?
Sure. So obviously, we can always use more resources, but that's not an option at this point, right? And we want to be at every street racing takeover, but we can't be. But we are strategic about what we do. We have a street racing task force that uses a variety of means to identify where and when certain street takeovers occur. And they work several nights out of the week. Timing of their deployment is based on the activity of street racing takeovers that they identify. When they respond to these takeovers, they respond in numbers because you can't go there in one or two officers. You have to go there in a group to address it. But what happens when they do go there, on average, they're writing between 15 to 50 citations for a variety of violations. Oftentimes, they'll identify some key players, and then they end up going in pursuit. The most common felony arrests that are occurring in these street takeovers are for felony evading, or surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, for possession of a firearm, unlawful possession of firearms. Those are the type of arrests that are coming out of these. Legislatively, again, I said they're writing between 15 to 50 citations. Legislative, we'd love to see legislation change where penalties are more stringent. In fact, we'd love to see if key participants in these takeovers, their vehicles can be impounded and destroyed, because we're seeing repeatedly the same players at different places. So legislatively, to your question, we'd like to see that. There was some effort early in the year to request that legislation change, but that didn't go past Assembly, and that won't be a bill or a law anymore.
Thank you, Chief. And as you continue to analyze this issue, if there's like certain technology or other things that could potentially help, that might be It's something that the commission would be interested in knowing about. Okay, thank you, Chief. Now moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, the report of the Inspector General, Mr. Barragan.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of the Office of the Inspector General's current activities. The OIG continues to focus on advancing its mission to provide strong, independent, and effective oversight of the LAPD, ensure that all LAPD employees act with honesty, dignity, and respect toward the public, and conduct community outreach to educate the public about the OIG, the Commission, and the Department. I'll provide a brief summary of the structure of my office and activities of the OIG. The OIG is entirely outside the chain of command of LAPD's reporting structure. My office reports only to the Board of Police Commissioners and has no direct reporting authority to the Chief of Police. The office can initiate an investigation into any area of the department and has access to all department facilities, documents, audio, video files, and personnel. The OIG is arranged into 5 primary sections, each of which is critical to meeting the office's responsibility. The complaint section is responsible for intake of complaints from both members of the public and department employees. Staff also conduct complaint investigations involving allegations of misconduct against the Chief of Police and occasionally other investigations as directed by the Commission. The section also conducts case reviews of completed investigations in certain circumstances. The audit section conducts systemic audits, reviews, and investigations of a wide variety of matters relevant to the performance of the LAPD as an agency and makes recommendations based on findings when applicable. The reports produced by this section are typically based on data, analysis, standardized auditing techniques, and extensive research. The use of force section conducts reviews of all investigations involving categorical uses of force. Staff respond to the scenes of all categorical uses of force to be able to provide real-time initial assessments of what occurred in these critical incidents. OIG staff in this section also conduct assessments of use of force trends and patterns that occur over time. The Community Relations and Strategic Initiative section is responsible for all public inquiries, meetings, social media posts, and other communications involving the OIG. The administrative section supports all of the other sections in their work and also handles all office personnel, operational and administrative matters. Our ongoing activities include I've presented at several recent LAPD trainings, including a supervisory and leadership training for civilians, in addition to police science and leadership training, which exposes relatively new officers to various topics that can be important as they navigate their early careers. Since I joined the office, I've participated in multiple meetings involving various stakeholders and groups, such as meeting with the League of Women Voters of Greater Los Angeles last week to provide an overview of my office and answer questions. My office will continue to participate in additional meetings and organize listening sessions going forward with the intent to gather community concerns and address questions related to the LAPD. Specific to recent protests relating to LAPD's role in connection with federal immigration enforcement actions taking place in the city of Los Angeles, the OIG will continue to monitor efforts connected to the department's after-action review and other activities in response to the protests. My office is engaged in discussions with the department regarding protest-related complaints as they proceed through the investigative process. The use of force section is further monitoring the department's efforts to classify and investigate categorical uses of force related to the ICE protests. The use of force section is also tracking the department's delayed interview pilot program, approved by the Police Commission in April for 6 months. The OIG has worked with the department to identify metrics and indicators to support the evaluation of this pilot. My office continues to attend monthly tactic review committee meetings where the department's officials and the OIG discuss critical issues related to use of force, training, and commission priorities, including de-escalation, intermediate force, and tactical disengagement. As part of a SWAT project, the audit section recently observed SWAT callouts. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector General Barragan. That can be a whole, we could have hours of discussion on just what you and your office are doing. But I look forward to periodic updates from you on that. Do any commissioners have any questions for the Inspector General?
I don't have a question. I have a comment, and I welcome these reports, and I look forward to receiving them more often than not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Okay, now we will move on to item 3 on the agenda, public comment. Madam Secretary, please call on the first speaker.
Andrew Graebner.
So, let's start off with the Chiefs report, which should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the Chiefs report exceeds 3 minutes, we shall match the amount of time the Chief takes. Regardless of how long the Chief takes to give us a report, everyone should be able to speak both in person and on the phone. So we have the Chief's report. So the Chief talked a little bit today about how the department is responding to the temporary restraining order, how you're trying to identify press and such so that you don't brutalize and arrest them. You know, you wouldn't have to do some of that work if you weren't doing the kind of stuff on anyone in the first place. If you weren't attacking protesters too, you wouldn't have to make sure that you're not attacking press as well. So that would be the easiest way to comply with a temporary restraining order, is to just stop being violent at protests, stop arresting and targeting protesters, and while you're at it, stop assisting ICE. You keep lying and claiming that you're not assisting ICE. The police chief, who's now skipped his second meeting, where is McDonald? Why isn't he ever here anymore? This is like the second meeting he skipped. Is he just hiding from the public now? Like, where is Jim? Okay, now, let's move on to the report of the Inspector General. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda now. I don't but we that was pretty much a whole pile of nothing. Just nothing. Are you inspecting anything? Like, you just said, oh, well, I'm doing some meetings, I'm looking into a few things. I'm not going to tell you the results of anything I've looked at recently, anything like that, but I'm certainly doing work, and I'm apparently independent. And we also could barely hear it anyway, so, yeah. You need to, when you use a microphone, you need to actually speak into the microphone, speak up, things like that. Okay, so we have the consent agenda. So on the consent agenda, we have over $1 million for vehicles, we have a, $10,000 TV structure, so just all kinds of stuff. We have $50,000 for lockers. Why do the lockers need to be $50,000? They're that expensive. Why don't you save some money and just tell them to bring their own bags and just stick them in there somewhere instead of having to buy all these lockers? We have all kinds of equipment. No on all the equipment. No on all the militarization. No on all the violence. You have a Heart of LAPD walk. That's news to me. I didn't know the LAPD had a heart. I didn't think they did. Maybe the heart's the giant flat screen TV in the lobby.
Next, we have Mona M. on Zoom.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioners, Deputy Chief Choi, OIG. Thank you for the opportunities to speak. I will be brief today. The past several months, I have been commenting and pleading with Chief McDonald to remove the Scientology representative from CPAB. I don't know if that has happened at all. However, I am here today to commend you for making the other changes that I have been requesting, one of which is providing a safe space for individuals that have been victimized and victims of crimes perpetrated from the cult of Scientology. Thank you for appointing a deputy chief and an investigator specifically to address the reports of crimes from the survivors. I know that your opinion of the peaceful protesters and the perceived relationship with the family-destroying, child-abusing, human trafficking cult will change because of these reports. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
Okay, next we have Margarita Carranza. Okay, William Good.
Good morning. So for the first time in 2 months, somebody in our government has finally spoken up and spoken out about the violence against journalists at protests. 2 months ago, your department went and brutalized and detained journalists, and they went and got a restraining order. And none of you guys said anything, said nothing. The LAPD heard that loud and clear. And so what they went and did is they went out and beat the shit and detained 10 journalists. One of them is back there, right there, Nick Stern, who you talk about journalists need to identify themselves. He had an oversized press pass on, showing it to an officer as he batoned him in his face and split his face open. How about that for self-identifying? And another journalist, Sean Beckner Cartmitchell, came over, raised his hand, approached, asked for a PIO, which is required under 409.7. They refused him and then batoned him in the ribs, fracturing his ribs. And then from there, this is while he's wearing his press pass, they detained him for an hour in handcuffs with other journalists. While you guys sat around for the last 2 months refusing to say anything about their abuse of the press, they heard it loud and clear. And they said, we're going to go out here and do what the fuck we want to do. How dare you? Fuck all of you for that. Now you talk about what's your protocol for identifying press. They are identifying themselves. They are saying it outwardly. They are wearing press passes. But their supervisors on scene are not honoring that. Nate Gowdy and Carrie Schrecker were detained, 2 really reputable journalists. They said, well, we can't verify that they're actual journalists. You had a lawyer there on scene identifying them, and they were not accepting that. Nate Gowdy is a guy who has his work on the cover of Time magazine. And then the LAPD had the nerve to go to ABC and say that they were pretending to be press. You know, I got to tell you something. It's been very clear what their policy is with self-identifying. Let me read this to you. The department will recognize individuals who self-identify as media representatives and will not require specific credentials. The inability to produce identification does not disqualify you as acting as a member of the press. You know who wrote that? This guy right here, 2020. That's your own fucking words. So once again, fuck all of you.
Next we have Sky on Zoom.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
Can I speak on all items, please?
Yes, 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. First, I want to say a couple weeks ago, somebody called in using my name, so I didn't have the opportunity to speak. And to that caller, that was very inappropriate and very wrong of you to do because I didn't get called on. If you can't use your own name when you call in, please be original and use a different name, but don't use a real caller's name. So just with that said, I wanted you to be aware of that. Chief Choi, thank you so much for your report. Great job. Inspector General, we heard you just fine. Your report was actually very informative, and thank you for that. We appreciate any information that helps us understand what you do, and it was great. Thank you. Ms. Russia, I want to say thank you to you also. You seem like the only commissioner up there on top with President Errol Southers who always sends condolences to officers that are fallen or have been killed in the line or out of line of duty. Thank you for your humanity. Thank you for your compassion. Thank you for that. You added a little humanity to the panel up there, along with, of course, the law enforcement. With that said, just want to say National Night Out was fantastic. Thank you to all the officers who attended. Thank you for LAPD for having this. Families enjoyed it. Kids enjoyed it. Whoever doesn't like it or has bad things to say about it can just stay home, but please continue to do so. It was great engaging with the officers. It was great family night out, and it was nice community outreach. So continue to do that. And Chief Joy, I just want to bring it to your attention that, we thank you for bringing up the street takeovers. We that live in that community are just sick and tired of it. We need to be like other communities and start having the drones and the license plate readers. No, it's not an invasion of privacy. We live in those communities. Other cities are actually doing that to help officers. And those who come up there and speak against drones or license plates readers or facial recognitions do not speak on our behalf that actually live in those communities. Please help us and anything that will help the officers, and such a fantastic job on LAPD for bringing down that the sexual the ring the ring that was brought to an end, I think, last week for sexual trafficking. Great job, LAPD. They are fantastic. And as far as press credentials, I don't think it's fair for officers that anyone holding up a cell phone declares themselves press, and the officers are supposed to know that. They need to also follow the rules. And now everyone's part of the press. So thank you, LAPD.
Okay, everyone in the audience, if you have to give everyone the opportunity to speak and not disrupt. So this is just everyone be on alert. Otherwise, I don't want to kick anyone out. Next speaker, please.
Audit LA.
Thank you. I want all 3 minutes, please. Wow, that was a tough one to get through. And I'm, pretty right. I think they all say that usually I'm a little bit too, I don't even know what to say. I'm stunned. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the readers and everything. And I don't know if the people in here realize that the Church of Scientology, okay, they own a lot of buildings, and they have a massive amount of surveillance around their buildings. Tag readers, which they can't even read, they don't have access to the reading it, but they have massive amounts. So maybe that caller needs to go live next door to a Scientology building. They will have all the surveillance they want. Microphones in the trees, cameras in the trees. You have absolutely no privacy. And they feed all that into LAPD. So it's what help we're getting, as you're saying, with, helping with our victims and stuff. You guys are using their massive amount of surveillance, and it should be an outrage to people in the neighborhood who just want to walk down the street, walking their dog, having a conversation, and without it being recorded. And and then I also want to speak about National Night Out. And she was also a real big fan of that, and I am too. I actually like National Night Out. It's a chance for the community and the police to hopefully get to know each other. I think the more you know each other, hopefully the better outcome. But Scientology, again, and I came here 2 weeks ago and begged you not to send any officers to their event at the Big Blue. And thankfully you didn't go, LAFD didn't go, no one went. I did go, and I tried to attend it because it says it's open to everyone. Okay, and it is a National Night Out event, not a Scientology event. So when I went to attend, I had guards rushing out to me to tell me to turn around and get out of here. You're not allowed in. And it's not like I'm disruptive, I'm just attending. But that's called viewpoint discrimination, okay? They don't, like I can go to anyone that's even completely anti-LAPD can go to any of your events, right? Like you would not kick them out unless they do something to warrant getting kicked out. I was kicked out merely because of my views and speaking up. And so thank you for not going and continue not to go. I also want to show this book, Child X. This is a child that was raised in Scientology, born and raised. And right here in LA, he talks about the horrific abuses that he as a child endured under, not under your noses, but under this department's noses. And there's still abuse going on. So I ask you to please look into it and take us seriously. Thank you.
Next, we have Nick Stern.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Nick Stern. I've been a journalist for over 30 years. During that time, I've worked in more than 50 countries. I've covered protests in Europe, Asia, Africa, and here in the United States. I work for newspapers, magazines, and media companies around the world. After the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests here in Los Angeles, law enforcement were universally condemned about their handling of those protests, for their tactics, their communication, their training, their use of lethal munitions, and the number of injuries they caused to members of the public and journalists. It's cost the city millions of dollars in settlements. Can I ask you, do you know what Penal Code 409.7 is? Penal Code 409.7 is there to protect journalists. It basically states that law enforcement cannot threaten, cannot abuse, cannot detain, and cannot arrest journalists while they work. You may see a slight wound on my chin that's healing. That's where I got hit across the face here in LA with a baton. If I drop my pants, you will see a 2-inch wound on my leg where an exploding projectile similar to this embedded itself in my thigh. I had 3 days in hospital and a bill for $80,000. Admittedly, that was the Sheriff's Department, not LAPD. On August the 8th, there was a protest here in LA outside the Metropolitan Detention Center, during which 10 journalists were injured, brutalized, detained, or arrested. Can you all read this? I mean, you're 15 feet away, maybe 20, 25 feet away. This is what I was holding out 2 or 3 feet away from Officer Orlick when he hit me across the face with a baton, causing a deep and bad cut to my chin. I had jaw ache, headache, and pain for several days. Journalist Tina Desiree Berg has a horrific cut to her finger. Journalist Sean Beckner Carmichael has broken ribs where he was repeatedly jabbed in the torso with a baton. Documentary filmmaker Rocky Romano has bruising to his torso where he was pushed down by LAPD. Mel Burr was repeatedly pushed into a metal utility pole by LAPD. An agency journalist was pushed to the ground, has bruising, and a broken, very expensive lens. A number of journalists were also detained and 2 were arrested. LAPD later lied to media about the nature of those arrests. Not only do we have Penal Code 409.7, July the 11th, there was a restraining order by a federal judge prohibiting law enforcement from abusing journalists. On July the 15th, Chief Jim McDonnell sent a letter to all personnel
Thank you, sir.
reminding them of their
Sir,
responsibilities.
your time is up, but have you made formal complaints for all of this?
That's going through my attorney now.
Have,
Can
thank
I just have 10 minutes to just 10
No.
seconds just to say one thing? I'd like to, the previous callers have mentioned the police night out. I would like to extend an invitation to any of you to come out with me on a protest one night so you can see the world from our side.
Thank you. Thank you. I do want to put someone in contact with you to have your contact information. Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
First, I'd like to offer condolences and prayers to the family and Blue family of police officer Hector De Leon Saldana, an untimely accidental death, and he will be remembered. LA City and the LAPD are in a downward spiral. And what do I mean by that? Look at the last academy class that graduated, the 325 class. How many graduates were there? 16, 1-6. not 60, which is the goal, 16. So we obviously have a problem, a serious problem with retention, recruitment, and morale. We need urgent change. Now, I see today there are 2 empty seats on the police commission. One has been empty for quite a while. It's unacceptable. I'm going to recommend a couple of things. One,
Sir, you in the front row, if you continue speaking, you will be asked to leave. That is your first warning.
may I continue?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm going to recommend Doretta Sandos, Vice President of Police Protective League, be appointed as the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. She's about to retire. She's well respected and well known and knows more about these issues of recruitment, retention, and morale than anybody. I'm also going to recommend that one of the people that call in here on a fairly regular basis, and I know is very involved in community policing, P. Miller, that the mayor hear her voice. We need cognitive diversity, not what we have been getting. Maybe we need a blue ribbon panel made up of retired directors, delegates, officers of all ranks from the LAPD who actually know something about policing to address these issues. We need leadership and we need drastic change. And it affects everybody. If you look at the New York Post edition of August 18th, it's talking about downtown being a vacant drug den. There are massive safety concerns. Foot traffic is way down because people don't feel safe. And that issue has to be addressed. At one time, we had foot beats on Broadway, in Little Tokyo, in Chinatown, different places. Where are they? You need visible police officers to prevent crime and to be accessible to the public to be able to have communication and community policing on a regular basis, not just one national night out per year. Utilize the lapdonline.org website in a better way for community policing. By the way, Officer Hector de Leon Saldana's image should be on there. Thank you. God bless and God save the LAPD.
Next, we have Jonathan Foster.
LAPD, but I have to also be a 210.46 duty to report misconduct, which is all what we do. And of course, supporting the police doesn't put me in the same bag of tricks. So I had to play this one for I created this one.
It's your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions.
Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period.
These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. We welcome feedback from the public during the public comment period.
Hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback. Hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback. Hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback. Hear the presentations and dialogue in real time. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to provide feedback.
De La Guerra says nothing. That's your job. They breaking the law here, bro. You said nothing. And then your comments versus Bill Bragg's and his comments, anybody's, we are supposed to hear each item and then comment on it while the people are here presenting. Because in of all people, you, prosecutor, in a trial, there's exam and then cross-examination, and you're not allowing this. You're a fraud. I like you a lot. You're hanging out in Pico Rivera, born in Egypt. Your hometown's Pico Rivera where the ice were peeing. I don't agree with that, but you're a fraud. You're a fraud. Get out of here, too. You're not well. There's something wrong with you, really. There's really something wrong with you. 2, I finished my driver's school, and on the driver's school talked about how sleepy driving is just like DUI. And then I noticed that during the riots, all the LAPD is underslept. Real dangerous, actually. Maybe that's why they're shooting people. And I looked at the travel time of less lethal. 120 feet per second, almost 100 miles an hour. Now, at 120 feet, I guess it could be going down and hit somebody in the genitals, but people were hit in the genitals at point blank range at 100 miles an hour. Next one that doesn't matter that much, but Texas is redistricting, and so then the governor wants to redistrict. Did you notice that's what Nori Martinez and Kevin Leon, the guy with two first names, was doing? They were trying to redraw.
Next speaker.
Jamie Cusick.
Next speaker, please.
Jamie Cusick.
Sir, you can leave the room if you're done. That's your first warning, and I'll ask you to leave. Thank you. Please.
Time in a while, I was shocked afresh by the language that's used to introduce the consent agenda items, because almost every word of it defines this meeting as a sham. The fact that all of these items are considered to be routine and non-controversial begs the question, why are you even pretending to address them? If the documentation provided to the board is adequate to give sufficient information for approval without inquiry or discussion, why even present that documentation? In 3 years of listening to or attending these meetings, I have never seen any commissioner make any response to that documentation, with the exception of Rasha inexplicably laughing along once when I was making fun of the absurd, almost sublingual word salady language that characterizes every one of those department reports. The fact is that LAPD can never provide a convincing case for why they should be allocated these vast sums of money, which today includes a $1.1 million donation from the Police Foundation for so-called command posts, a transparent attempt to launder militarization through the language of natural disasters. LAPD claims these command posts will be used for things like fires and earthquakes, while we all know that they'll really be used for protest repression and to contribute to the terrorization of LA's Black, brown, and unhoused community members. And meanwhile, we all just saw in January exactly how fucking useless, if not actively harmful, cops are during wildfires. So this is an outright lie. And my point is that in this meeting, LAPD is authorized to lie. LAPD never needs to provide a factually accurate account of how they're using the resources their budget steals from us, much less a convincing account, because that's not what this room is for. Rasha herself just observed this point literally just now when she referred to us as the audience. And that actually is an accurate term, because this is political theater. This is a fake performance. The idea that you civilian commissioners provide oversight is as ludicrous as the idea that you're civilians. Karen Bass just renominated Southers to be president of this fucking commission. He was too afraid to show his face in light of that renomination, because we know that he knows that we know that he is a cop, and he's going to get his shit rocked today. His book, Homegrown Violent Extremism, is an explicitly Islamophobic text that criminalizes being Muslim, with a transparency that is shocking even for a former FBI agent. He continues to repress, harass, and terrorize USD students in his capacity as SVP of Safety. Fuck you all for your complicity in the racist, murderous project of policing this city. You don't keep us safe, we keep us safe. Fire Southers, fire McDonnell. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Kristen Klotz.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Choi, Inspector General, Mr. Sibley, and Mr. City Attorney. My name is Christine Klotz. I retired as a detective.
Sorry, can you pause that time? Everyone that is talking, stop talking, or you're going to be asked to leave. Please give her an opportunity to speak. I don't know. I'm not asking that people are calling. I have no idea. So, board secretary, sir, we will handle these. Yes, we're trying to get through it. I'm trying to get through everyone here. We have 15 more minutes of public comment. I'll extend it a bit, but we have a long number of speakers, and I'm trying to accommodate. So, everyone else can please be quiet and let the speaker speak. Continue, please.
Thank you. I retired as a detective after 30 years of service. Today, I want to share how the disciplinary system, and specifically the 2009 Special Order Number 47, was used against me, and how it threatens anyone who comes forward with the truth. On Tuesday, September 19, 2023, I was assigned to Robbery Homicide Division. I, along with another female detective, walked into an active police commission meeting. A confidential complaint letter detailing serious misconduct was provided to each member of the board. That very same day, a deputy chief that I named as an accused in that letter struck back. He requested video footage from this very building to view my actions. Upon that, he filed a fabricated complaint based off his feelings, his belief, and his concern. Shortly thereafter, I was once again targeted and accused in yet another fabricated internal complaint. This was not a coincidence, it was retaliation. My command then used Special Order 47 to downgrade me from a Detective 3 to a Detective 1. That decision took only 2 signatures, an assistant chief and a commander. There was no investigation, there was no due process, and I was given no chance to defend myself. The department claims a downgrade isn't punitive. Well, I can tell you, it certainly is. It strips away rank, pay, credibility, and leaves a permanent scar. It tells the department and the public that you must have done something wrong. That stigma never goes away. Example, when I turned to internal affairs, I expected fairness. Instead, my complaints were dismissed, while those responsible were protected. That is exactly why employees remain silent. The fear of retaliation is real, and that silence protects wrongdoers, not the department and not the public. Similar circumstances may occur to others if Special Order 47 remains unchanged. My concern is if this happens to another employee, they may not survive. The apparent abuse by those in a position of power must end. With that, I respectfully ask the Commission to review Special Order 47 and the entire disciplinary system. Measures that were perhaps not intended to be punitive have become exactly that, a weapon in the hands of command officers. Many say the LAPD will never change. I do not believe that. I believe that reform is achievable, and I am confident that each of you have the capability to effect such change. The question is, will you allow the abuse to continue? Yes. Or will you act to restore fairness, integrity, and trust for this department and for the community that we serve? In closing, I have prepared recommendations to reform Special Order 47 and the disciplinary system. I respectfully urge you to give it your careful review and consideration. Thank you for your attention in this matter.
Thank you. Can someone please take that form? Thank you, Detective.
Laura Anderson.
Okay, hi. This sucks. You know, I feel guilty coming up here trying to fight against the crimes of Scientology when all this other shit is going on too. I feel guilty, but I shouldn't, right? Because I was a child born and raised in it. I was being that. And yesterday, I was protesting the cult of Scientology. And again, for the 3rd time now, an old man from inside the cult came up to harass and attack me. He's attacked me already twice. But no police officer shows up. Still now I'm here, PTSD, shaking, feeling shitty for what really needs to be changed in the world. But everything that's changed in the world, like the cult of the LAPD, used to also be like Scientology. They're slowly getting away with little things, like an old man coming up and assaulting me. Why is he not in jail? Maybe that would show a representation to Scientology to stop harassing protesters, just like protesters are getting assaulted and harassed in different ways. Like, where do we go? I'm 40 years old now, and I was born in this LA cult, getting harassed yesterday. I need that man to be fucking arrested. I'm so sick of being nice. I'm not doing this shaking and struggle for the rest of my life to sit and get assaulted every time. But as I go to protect my child, my childhood, my father was there 3 nights ago. I saw him when I was randomly protesting at 1:30 in the morning. He refused to talk to me and ran off. He ran off again. This is my own father and me yelling for him to fucking get out. What do we have to do? Shake more, get more assaulted? I want that man arrested. I have the video, I have his face. Security was there, Scientology security, who should not be on public city property controlling public, or me, or anybody. That they're not police officers. Yet the security guard knows who this man is. 3 times now has assaulted either me twice and another protester, yet he goes to hide because I don't know his name. He needs to be arrested today. I'm fucking waiting for that person to be arrested so that inside members of this cult don't also get away with this shit. And also for everybody else, for Nick, for everybody. I start with Scientology because that's my war, but the public is their war.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you be willing to speak to someone? Thank you.
Michael Williams.
Just to start off with, the abuse of journalists is a tactic taught to the LAPD by Israel, by the IOF. So that's a deliberate, intentional attack on journalists, the same way the IOF are deliberately attacking journalists in Palestine. So free Palestine. Errol Southers, the president that you're getting ready to reappoint, said in a paper co-authored by Errol Southers, it classified signs of Muslimness and identification with Palestinians as potential characteristics for homegrown violent extremism. So just being Muslim to Errol Southers, something that he backed up and co-signed, is akin to being an extremist, is a sign of being an extremist. Saying the words free Palestine is akin to being an extremist. This is a man that you're about to reappoint as president of this police commission. Let's not forget the fact that he has accusations of using FBI resources to stalk his wife. Let's take that out of there. He has shown time and time again his Islamophobia, his anti-blackness, even as a black man, because even in his own book, he categorized black separatists as also violent extremist terrorists. So this is the man you're going to reappoint. Let's talk about the police chief that's not here. The police chief who's not here, that same police chief who signed on to a letter that discouraged the signing of the sanctuary bill. That same man, it is no wonder that the LAPD has been caught sending license plate reader information to ICE. And I still, from this commission, have not heard a response from the LAPD saying whether they are continuing that program, whether they're continuing to send. So you guys could sit up here again and talk about how much you support immigrants, that you're against what ICE is doing, but you're allowing the LAPD as the civilian oversight body to continue to send information to ICE to help them in their raids and taking our community members. That's what y'all are doing. Look, I can't speak for nobody else, but I don't come here expecting y'all to do shit. I come here because if there's no better example of the corruption, of the lack of compassion, of the ineffectiveness of this city's government, It's this body. Prove me wrong.
John Avalos.
Hi. And furthermore, no. The women in this group, are you aware that just the other day, these indigenous women that were over there protesting, they've been slammed to the ground, jumped on top of? There's videos of all that. Beautiful young women that claim to be indigenous. They're probably Chicanas, but they're in their garb, right? Their Aztec dance garb, ceremonial garb. They've been getting just tortured and stomped on. Just in case you didn't know, I'm sure you're being Rasha and Senora. I'm sure you're not being given these images. I'm sure you're being kept from this reality. And the second thing, oh good, I'm 2 minutes. The second thing, what's gonna happen to the people that the DA is saying, I'm gonna prosecute these protesters and the full extent of the DA has a group of protesters that were arrested by LAPD during those first few days when ICE arrived, and we were all freaking out. Oh my God, ICE is actually ICE was already kidnapping children from the schools. And then the protests began, and LAPD arrested all these protesters. Where are they? Who are they? Does anybody know the list of who they are? We don't even know who they are yet. That's sad that we can't find out. I cannot find out what's going on with their cases. Finally, yes, they are using cameras to take. I've been out there with my little car. I'm disabled. I've been out there in my little car filming everything. I'm an educator, former educator. They took pictures of my license plates, and look what I got in the mail, about $1,000 of tickets. Are you gonna make me homeless? Look, you guys are beating up the homeless and getting rid of them under that new law that City Council came up with, 4818. You're creating homeless people by doing this to me. How am I gonna pay my rent? This came in the mail. I was not there when they gave me these tickets. I was not there. They sent me tickets. I was not there. What's going on, Inspector General? Somebody's got to help me. How am I going to deal with this by myself? Can any of you help me? And they show pictures of my car. How do I know they didn't put my car in another image and made it look like I was parked over there at City Hall in a red zone? I was never leaving my car. I'm always there taking pictures. I'm disabled. I can barely move. And I'm in there with my little dogs in the car. Wow. And the day that they closed down that one protest the other day with musicians.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker,
Sheila
please.
Bates.
I'm an organizer with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles and also a community member. And I notice, as others have pointed out, that newly reappointed Errol Southers is once again a no-show. When we said we don't want him here, we mean we don't mean not showing up for meetings when he can duck and dive the public. We mean we don't want him in this fucking body in the first place. This body that is a disappointment not only because of him, but because you don't listen, ever. Because you meet in this building in the belly of the beast in LAPD headquarters. You cannot be a civilian body over the police department when you are in their fucking building and have these meetings on Tuesday mornings in downtown, where conveniently a place that y'all know that we all park is shut down and we can't park there for some reason today, magically. And when over the last few weeks and over the last few months, increasingly, there has been more and more police presence in that parking lot just before we arrive here and right after we leave here. Isn't that just a little fucking convenient? It's almost like it's, I don't know, a tactic to threaten us, to try and scare us from speaking out. We don't give a shit. We're still gonna tell y'all, fuck the LAPD, Fuck the police, defund LAPD, defund the police, and abolish the fucking police. Point blank, period. Back to Southers, a glorified cop who is responsible for the abuse of USC students, who has created a tool that quote unquote identifies extremists, the same tool that likely would identify anybody who has spoken out against LAPD and this body as an extremist, who are sitting right here in this building and in this room, including myself, merely for speaking out against LAPD and against this body. And yet this is the person who is now going to become, once again, the president of this body, who's supposed to represent civilians, who he then identifies as extremists, and he can't fucking show his face. Make it make sense. An individual who has been vehemently opposed by community and civilians, and yet is being appointed to this body by a mayor who's made it clear she doesn't give a fuck what we think or what we want, right alongside you all. And you all are supposed to represent community, and you're supposed to represent civilians. And then further fuckery of this body includes McDonald, who was also opposed by community, who was so bad that people thought that a good replacement would be fucking Villanueva. And then, what does Karen Bass do? She makes him the fucking chief of police and pays him $500,000, and then he can't even show up, and then this dumbass sits in his place. And y'all are supposed to represent community. Make it fucking make sense.
Aiden?
What up, pigs, people? Couple topical notes from today's discussion. Do all the pigs sitting here get paid? I see all these guys in the front row and on the side walking through little side doors. Is this where all the overtime comes from, sitting and watching the community talk shit and I guess speak truth to power? I hope you're learning something.
Ma'am, and you've already had your opportunity to speak. Please let him speak. Thank you.
Let's see. If you're coming here because, I think this every week, but I'm saying it now. If you're coming here because you thought the police would help you, sorry, I guess. And I hope this meeting is eye-opening for you and leads you to seek and build better systems that do not involve the civilian pigs behind there or the military pigs, you know, on their quest for power. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed this meeting is Matthew here has been visibly surprised when people have said certain things that anyone with an Instagram or TikTok account, or maybe anyone who bothers reading the news, has known for months. So I guess my question to you as the Inspector General, which I never realized you were before because you never talk, is how is this news to you? Everyone knows about this shit. Like, you know, oh yeah, like, we'll have someone come talk to you after the meeting. Like, this is like this grand discovery. Like, open up Instagram, look up the hashtag LAPD and maybe like protest or something, and you can get all of this information before it gets filtered through the pigs and their, you know, their internal investigations unit and their after action reports, and gets sanitized so that you can rubber stamp it. Before that happens, you actually have the power to look at firsthand evidence. The firsthand evidence will tell you what is happening, which is that the police are beating the shit out of people largely for no reason. To the journalist who spoke earlier, you know, I feel really bad about journalists getting the shit beaten out of them. I think it's probably a more important discussion, and it was briefly touched upon by someone, to wonder why the police are beating the shit out of anyone. You know, like, if you can't identify someone, maybe you shouldn't be fucking shooting them. And if they're far enough away that you can't identify them, maybe they don't pose a threat, and you are violating your own rules of engagement with respect to shooting people. Think about it. Other things on the agenda that I'm not going to have time for, maybe teaching the LAPD to read. I know you send them to schools, although that's largely to, you know, indoctrinate them. Maybe they could learn how to read the words PRESS or the Constitution, even though that's really not much these days. Or maybe they could just have the critical thinking skills to stop abusing people, even just regular citizen non-journalists. Instead of waiting for a restraining order to come from a third party, you could have an internal policy that says, hey, don't use violence against people. It's fucking embarrassing, and it's making people not want to be cops. Anyway, fuck 12, free Palestine. You know, think about what you're doing.
Quinn?
And we have already exceeded our 45-minute period, but we'll go for a little longer.
So you're getting $1.173 million for a command post, seemingly to monitor natural disasters. But we see this for what it is, a tactic. In a long lineage of mission creep in which you get money for something seemingly benign and then use that money for your murderous means. I've seen your little mobile command posts all across the city at all sorts of events and protests. But what exactly will your command post do when wildfires sweep across LA again? Or an earthquake happens? Are you going to use your real-time crime tracking to watch a tsunami or a flood? No. You fools, it's a fucking Twitter joke. Your pigs will shoot bullets into a fire, but this $1.173 million is quite literally for the aims of LAPD getting prepared to police a natural disaster. It's always to police the people, to harass the people, to brutalize the people, to murder the people, to abduct the people. People's homes were burned down, and now you have another $1.173 million fucking bucks to surveil and brutalize and hunt us again. And you're also going to get $40 grand for your community safety partnerships program, which is ultimately a community policing program. We talked a lot about how people are scared of calling 911 because of ICE raids, but we know the truth that the community has never trusted law enforcement. If we trusted you murderous fucks, you wouldn't need a whole program to gain our trust back. You wouldn't need to play jujitsu and football and do fishing in the park if you didn't kill our family members and abduct our neighbors. And another note on trust, by the way, folks aren't not calling 911 because a couple months ago, ICE came to kidnap a woman. She called 911 and LAPD stopped traffic so that ICE could do a better job at kidnapping her. Not seeking help from law enforcement when they need it because of the ICE raids, that's a quote from you all. And what you really mean to say is not seeking help from LAPD and law enforcement, A, because they'll never fucking help us, and B, because when you call LAPD, you make it easier to have an ICE raid. You keep trying to distinguish between LAPD and the federal government as if calling 911 isn't the same as calling the feds. The National Guard was the quote-unquote federalization of LA, but we've seen the feds in your back pocket this whole fucking time via fusion centers and the information sharing environment. And you want another instance in which calling 911 didn't help anyone? In the death of Linda Becerra Moran, she called 911 because she was being human trafficked and you all showed up and you killed her because she was experiencing a mental health crisis. Outside you have a fucking blow up that says heart of LAPD, your whole life matters. So LAPD pigs can walk a 5K and it's stroller friendly, dog friendly with quote family fun activities. You know who it isn't friendly to? Anyone experiencing a mental health crisis. Your pigs killed Yang Yang in his parents' home and you all at the podium cleared any record of his blood. And your pigs killed Linda Becerra Moran and it was you all at that podium who cleaned any record of her blood. Yang Yang and Linda Becerra Moran deserved care, they deserved support, and they didn't deserve to be murdered in cold fucking blood by you. Suicide prevention? When Linda Becerra Moran was experiencing intense suicidal ideation and held a knife to her own throat, your suicide prevention was to murder.
Hamed?
More spectacle, more bullshit. I think it was pathetic, but it was also funny to watch too. The detective who was here in that suit, speaking about how she hasn't gotten her due process. Imagine that how many people have been fucked over by that detective for their due process. How many people have been fucked over for transparency? How many people have been fucked over with false evidence? How many people have been fucked over with all the conspiracies that they hatch all the time? And here you go again, like, just, hey, why are you treating me like that? Motherfuckers, you murder people. You kill people. And that's why we are here, to expose them. For people who haven't been here before, this is a civilian oversight body, and two of them are MIA. The person on the other side is a former judge. Now you can say anything, but nothing fucking makes any sense to them. The one in the middle, Russia, is a former federal prosecutor. Errol Southers, who people have been talking about, is a former FBI agent. These are your representatives who are going to protect you from state violence and police violence. Which brings me to the other thing that Kuyen talked about how this federalization and this bullshit works out. I mean, the whole propaganda that the Marines are here, National Guard is here, the city is federalized. These fucks have federalized the city forever. Forever. Fusion centers, joint regional intelligence centers, real-time crime centers, National Law Enforcement Telecommunication System, California Law Enforcement Telecommunication Systems, National Data Exchange. Federalization is to watch us, to control us. It's about social control and to come after us and murder us and displace us and banish us. That is happening all the time. You don't need a policeman or you don't need a cop in person to be doing that. It is all happening through the stalker state, and that's the myth of Sanctuary City. That is the myth of Sanctuary City as well. And last thing, I want to come back and honor our comrades from Boyle Heights who are here to talk about Jimmy Flores and how the family has been brutalized constantly. It reminds me of the same thing of what happened with Jesse Romero back in 2016, 14-year-old kid. First they murder them, then they demonize them, then they weave these fucking stories, and then they brutalize the family. And then they want to shut you up. Because they know that they have deep pockets. They know they can pay over $100 million, $300 million, $200 million. Who gives a fuck? And that's what we are looking at. But we continue to come back here.
Megan?
Man, it just feels embarrassing to even address you today. Los Angeles is the most dangerous place in the country for journalists. We are the most surveilled city in the nation. We have the deadliest police department in the nation, and that's thanks to you, all of you sitting up there. It's making me nauseous to look at you in your faces right now. It just feels wrong to address you as if you're here in any kind of good faith. Do you know who also had a big ol' administrative infrastructure in place full of polite ass kissers, just like you? Nazis, just like every other fascist regime in history. You are more interested in protecting the people that you love, more interested in protecting your status and wealth that benefits the people that you love than in stopping a fascist takeover of this city. That's on you, and I hope it fucking haunts you, but I doubt it because y'all are numb and dead inside. On the agenda today, the Mental Health Awareness Walk. You're really outdoing yourselves with that one. It's a new level of sick, honestly, a new level of Orwellian doublespeak. When you participate in the walk, Rasha, will you hold a candle for Linda Becerra Moran? Teresa, will you hold in your heart the parents of Yang Yang, murdered in his parents' living room? Fabian, what about you? Will you fondly remember Earl Collier, also experiencing a dissociative episode, who was literally hunted down and murdered a mile from here? And your own fucking edited footage shows that? You have the nerve, Rasha, to express concern that folks aren't calling 911. Rasha says, I hope we aren't discouraging people from using it. Are you fucking kidding me? Why would people who are concerned about ICE raids not want to call LAPD? Why would they not? Could they be because they see you actively assisting them in person? And that it's now becoming common knowledge, thanks in part to the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, that LAPD actively collaborates with ICE behind the scenes, using this vast surveillance state that you have created to let them know the exact information that they need to grab people off the streets. Shame on you. What about you, Matthew? How's your mental health doing knowing you work for fucking Nazis? Which makes you a Nazi, by the way. I want to second Andrew's magnificent read that Matthew gets the award today for using the most amount of words, to say the least. It's not surprising they never let you talk. I've never heard a report more full of nothing in my life. You are a pawn. You are a part of this fascist death machine, and you provide nothing. Fuck all of you, and shame on you.
Taylor Smith. Taylor Smith.
Hello, can we hear me okay? Cool beans. So first and foremost, my name is Taylor Smith. I am a protester. I'm a frontliner. I'm out there every day. I have my whistle. I need to have my whistle because we can't call you guys. LAPD is protecting and supporting DHS and ICE. I see it every day at the 24/7 protests at 535 North Alameda Street. I see it every day. Some examples, I'll give you examples. On Friday, August 8th, 20 to 30 squad cars of LAPD with over 50 police officers pulled up for no reason. A march was walking down to the detention center where the 24/7 protest was. They were supposed to meet. That was the plan. We wanted to have a big celebration, a big protest of people supporting our community, supporting our residents about these ICE raids that are happening, and also this fascist regime that we're living in. We're living in fascism. I need you guys to get that. It's here. It's not an idea. It's not a maybe or maybe midterms. What midterms? It's here. Anyway, because DHS saw a big crowd of over maybe 100 people, they got scared and they called mommy and daddy. They called LAPD. Again, over 50 officers showed up and they held us there until maybe like 12 a.m. And it was egregious. It was forceful. I have way more to say, but I only have 2 minutes. And then I want to add that the LAPD pulled up on us like we were a riot. There was no chance for press to even show a press badge. You saying that is actually a joke. I've watched them try. I've defended many press from being beaten by the LAPD. On the 12th, Tuesday of August, 50 plus squad cars, bikes, and 2 horses came to the detention center at 535 North Alameda Street at 2:30 p.m. There was a 24/7 protest had about 5 people there, and LAPD shut down the entire street, just that street, not the block, not 2 or 3 blocks, not other streets, just the street that we want to protest on. Not a coincidence. They were there because DHS caught wind of another march coming down to join our protest. They got scared and they shut down the entire street from 2:30 p.m., our tax dollars, 2:30 p.m. to 12:05 a.m. That's how long LAPD was there for, with 50 plus squad cars, captains, chiefs, lieutenants. I've spent a lot of time with the LAPD. With my last 30 seconds, I will say this. We are taking our rights for granted. You are taking the right to sit in that chair. You're taking it for granted. Ladies, you are allowed to sit there. I don't think we are you are like these men of color that I'm looking at, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, the officers, you are allowed to have these jobs. White men, specifically white men in power, they are allowing you to have those seats. What happens when you are not allowed to have those seats anymore? What happens? It was the civil rights movement. It was those suffragettes that fought hard for us to have these rights. And you're taking it away from us. Do better.
Gabriel. Gabriel.
Hello, my name is Gabriel with Centro CSO. First thing I want to say is call on the family of Jeremy Flores. They have been waiting for hours on Zoom. Their loved one was killed by LAPD Hollenbeck Station on July 14th. Paula Mendez, Isabella Rivera, they've been on Zoom, so can you do me a favor and call them? First thing I want to say, we're advocates for community, community control police, civilian oversight commission. Not one that's filled with cops. Come on, what is this? Inside of the LAPD station, what kind of accountability is this? So we're here to demand accountability. We want the names of the officers that killed Jeremy Flores. He was shot and killed by LAPD Hollenbeck Station. The chief was there the day of. Why was he there? To try and cover it up? He was shot and killed. They said he had a rifle that was proven false. He did not have a rifle. He was unarmed when he was shot and killed multiple times. We want the names of the officers involved. We want their misconduct reports, if there's any. We believe there are. And we want that unedited body cam footage. We don't need y'all to edit the body cam footage and release it months later. We deserve that transparency. We pay so much money in the budget and we don't even get no transparency. So how are we gonna have accountability? National Night Out, I've seen that was mentioned a couple of times. We went to the one at LAPD Hollenbeck Station, and you know what we were met with when we demanded these democratic demands?
We were met with flying batons. We were met by Captain Christopher Mayberry pushing us and assaulting us for protesting this National Night Out event. That wasn't attended by many community members. A lot of that stuff from the neighborhood did not come out, including the East LA Youth Wolfpack team that's been there for years. They didn't show out. Why do you think they didn't go? Because their family are probably undocumented and they don't want to go there. Why would they go there? The Marines were there. Why would anyone in the community want to go to an event with the Marines when they were just called in by Trump? Right? That's what the people were saying. I'm just repeating what the people were saying. So we had this event. The family was assaulted by Johnny Altomarino. He's the senior lead officer for Hollenbeck Station. He was swinging his baton and pushing the sister-in-law of Jeremy Flores. This is his fourth viral incident. During National Skate Day in 2024, he pulled out a gun on skateboarders right there by the First Street Bridge. That went viral. During the student walkouts, when students were protesting against Trump's racist anti-immigrant policies, he was there. And he pushed down local organizer Felipe to the ground and pulled out a baton on Proyecto Pastoral, which is people from a church who were giving out snacks to the kids. This is the type of community policing we get in Boyle Heights. So this is why we're fighting back against this. When we had a protest at the station, you know what happened? A guy came out, a random person came who cleans the LA police station, and he sprayed us down with a fire extinguisher and with cameras, everything. And that all happened there. And and you know what he told us? He's like, oh, I cleaned up the station here. He had a cop hat, and he was some homeless guy probably, but he gets paid by the station to clean it up, and he attacked us. So yeah, fuck you.
Sir, before you leave, can I ask you two things? Can you please repeat the names of the family members you say that are on Zoom? And I'll ask the board secretary if you could identify them. We'll have them be up next. And number two, you mentioned a few names and a few different incidences. If you are willing to speak with anyone, I'll ask you to ask someone from the Inspector General's office and the department to speak with you after you provide us the names. Thank you.
For sure. So Isabella Rivera, she's the mother of Jeremy Anthony Flores, and Paola Mendez, she's the partner of Jeremy Flores.
Can you repeat that second name?
Paola Mendez, and I'm sure there's other family members there as well, as well as members of the organization. And regarding, talking to anyone, I don't believe that if I talk to a cop about us being assaulted by cops, that anything fruitful will come. So
how about the Inspector General's office?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Madam Secretary, are you able to advance the family
I
members?
see Isabella Rivera, but I don't see Paola.
Okay, please bring on the first one.
Isabella, you're on.
Yes, I am. I'm here. Hi, my name is Isabella Rivera, and I'm Jeremy's Anthony Flores' mom, who was killed on July 14 by LAPD, Hollenbeck. I just want justice for my son. He was unarmed. He hasn't any threats to nobody, and the police didn't follow the protocol. They kill him in 6 minutes. They waiting for the swab after 2 hours. They don't give him medical assistance, so he let him die. So I want the videos. I want answers. I have so many questions. Nobody called me. Nobody give me the answers. Can you please? You have the power to check my boy's case. In any case, it's a lot of mothers crying for their kids. So I'm talking about my kid and everybody who get killed by LAPD. Nobody want to call LAPD anymore because we are scared of them. That's too much violence. So somebody had to check on them. Somebody had to do something, please, please. From the bottom of my heart, I ask you, please check my boy's case. His life counts like everybody else. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry for your loss. And if you, hey, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, and I'm sorry for your loss. And if you can provide your contact information, I don't know if the board secretary is able to communicate directly with her. We'll try to have someone from, we do have the contact information, ma'am, so we will have someone be in contact with you. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Derek Mejia.
I'll keep my comments brief. I'm here in solidarity with the family of Jeremy Flores. You have all just learned about. Jeremy Flores was 26 years old when he was murdered by LAPD on July 14th, 2025. I'm here in Boyle Heights. I'm here demanding that the unedited body cam footage be released alongside with the names of the officers who murdered Jeremy. I'm here to demand as well that killer cops be charged and put in prison. We don't need them patrolling our streets. They don't keep us safe. And lastly, I also demand that the officers at LAPD Hollenbeck Station stop harassing the family and friends of Jeremy Flores. It's ridiculous. On National Night Out, my comrades and I were at LAPD Hollenbeck Station protesting and trying to bring justice to Jeremy Flores. And what were we met with? Harassment by LAPD Hollenbeck. They formed a skirmish line, they pushed a bunch of us around, they assaulted some of us. And for what? For demanding accountability? Shameful. I yield my time.
Thank you, sir. And are you willing to speak with the Inspector General's office or a member of the department?
Hell no.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rhonda Dixon.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rhonda Dixon. I'm an attorney, and I'm actually here on behalf of Dr. Adrian Dove, CORE, Los Angeles Metropolitan Churches. And I'm here because Dr. Dove has been presiding over the Kingdom Day Parade for 40 years. He was granted his parade license as usual this year in June, but then he got a letter from the commission stating that it was rescinded because there were multiple applications. I looked through the policies and procedures, and there's no actual basis for rescission or for multiple applications. Apparently his application got in first because he was granted the application. The problem is there was no further information as to how the commission was going to act. The letter actually said that you would have a meeting and discuss it and then advise him later. There's no process for that, and that doesn't seem transparent. We don't know who the other multiple applications were. There are no credible reasons why his was rescinded. If it was rejected, there's reasons for rejection, but for rescission, there's nothing in your bylaws or policies or the law that states what happens when it's rescinded. He has multiple contracts. He's been doing this Kingdom Day Parade in the community since I was little. I've lived here all my life, and I remember this particular event as being a big event in our community. And so to take it away from him, you have to have some reason, and you have to have some transparency for that. And it has to be reasons that are sanctioned by your policies, like it has to be safety, traffic. There has to be something. He's never had any complaints. So this issue of, it seems something partisan. We don't know exactly what it is, but there needs to be some transparency, and someone needs to communicate as to what the next steps are regarding the permit, because he has contracts with Channel 7 to televise it. He has contracts for sponsorship, and this decision is causing him economic harm as well as causing problems with the community, because we don't know who is trying to take over this parade that he's been doing for 40 years. So what I'm requesting is some transparency and some information from this commission as to what are the next steps and what he can and should do in order to ensure that he gets his permit, as he has for 40 years. Thank you. I yield my time.
Okay, next we have Sukhbir Gill. Gill?
Ma'am, you've already had an opportunity to speak. Let's have another speaker.
I'm here demanding justice for Jeremy Flores as well, 26-year-old Chicano who was shot and killed by LAPD Hollenbeck Station July 14th. The officers said themselves they don't know what prompted them to shoot, but they did, killing Jeremy. Then waited 2 hours for SWAT to arrive, fired tear gas, and then had his body on the floor in the heat for people to see. While we have pictures of officers laughing under a tent. We demand all unedited body cam footage, names of the officers who shot and killed Jeremy, and their serial numbers and any past history of excessive abuse. Also, medical history to see if they're taking steroids, which leaves them emotionally volatile and puts the public at risk, or if they're in the military and are suffering from PTSD. And this should be applied to all public servants. Also demanding justice for Hugo Kachua, who was killed by off-duty LAPD officer from the Central Station, Victor Corral. Victor Corral was defenseless and on the ground when, or Hugo Kachua was on the ground and defenseless when Victor Corral fired the fatal shot. Corral had multiple firearms that were not secured in the front of his vehicle. He was also on medical leave for over a year, so why was he able to carry a service revolver on him unsecured? Post-born members have decertified for these exact actions and even less. So why are these public servants not held accountable for their crimes by the departments, and why are they being protected by the departments and the unions? So justice for all stolen lives, especially by state-sanctioned criminals who abuse their authority on the streets, don't conform to their own rules and regulations or your guys' authority, and have the audacity to go through a due process, which isn't ever public and is always redacted. Yet we have to suffer their consequences. While we suffer from injuries, abuse, traumas, and death. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that was the last in-person speaker. Madam Secretary, have you been able to identify any additional family members on Zoom?
Not under that name, no.
Okay, thank you so much. That concludes our public comment time. We have gone about an hour and 15 minutes. And we will now move on to item number 4 on the agenda. I will pull, ma'am, you are disrupting the meeting. And this is a, thank you. We have already exceeded our public comment time. We are now moving on to item number 4 on the agenda. I will pull the following items for questions. Item 4, ma'am, you are to leave the meeting. All right. I will pull the following items for questions, item 4A, 4B, and 4J. Yes, so let's do this. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for any of the other items under item 4? No? No? Okay. And I don't have questions for item 4E, but I do want to note how supportive I am of the Heart of LAPD Mental Health and Suicide Awareness Walk. Having attended the event in the past, it's a very important event both for officers and their families and for the entire department. So with that, I will move that we approve items 4C through 4I and take the recommended board action. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And we will take a break and then come back and have some questions for items 4A, 4B, and 4J. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We are back on the record, and we are, we'll call item 4A. Is anyone here for 4A? On Zoom?
Hi, good afternoon. Mara Legaspi with LAPD's Fiscal Group.
Wonderful, thank you. And I believe Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon, did you have questions for this item?
Okay, excuse me. What is your name again, please?
My name is Mara Legaspi. I'm the Assistant Commanding Officer at LAPD's Fiscal Group.
Okay, good morning. I have a very brief question, and I guess I could have called you to get the answer, but after reading the fact sheet, the Supplemental Police Account Expenditure Plan 36, SPA 36, dated July 31, 2025, the only thing that really stands out is the adopted budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023, and here we are in August of 2025. So with that, I wanted to know why 2 years later we are getting a report about an expenditure that occurred 2 years back, and why isn't it more current?
The plan that's before you, you are correct. It is for funding that the department received for fiscal year 22-23. We are now preparing the plan to expend those funds. So we have not yet expended the funds. The plan before you is to expend the funds. Due to competing priorities and some of our resource challenges, the plan is a little bit behind schedule, but we are working on getting back on schedule so that the plan that will be before you matches the fiscal year that we are in. But you are correct that the plan before you is for fiscal year 22-23.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do any other questions? No. Okay, then I would move that we adopt or approve the report and adopt the recommended action for item 4A. Is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. For item 4B, is there anyone here on that item?
Good morning, Commissioners. Captain Mike Applegate, LAPD's Emergency Services Division.
Good morning, Captain. Received the report, and there are a number of different items that are listed. I wanted to just get a sense of how it is that you came to identify these items as things that you believe the department needs, and particularly whether there were lessons learned from the Palisades fire. I visited the command post during that time, heard that there were communication issues, things like that. So trying to understand what the process was to identify what are the things that the department needs for other kind of major either disasters or incidences, including preparing for big events.
Yes, ma'am. So as you know, the response to the Palisades fire for the command post in the staging area was multi-month long. So much of the equipment that is listed on here that is due to be replaced through this donation was already kind of coming to the end of its useful life. And then because of the extended deployment at the Palisades, 24 hours a day for many months, that hastened the end of life of many of these items. And then in addition, the environment out there, being so close to the ocean, the kind of salt air and that kind of thing, also took a toll on some of the equipment. Some of this equipment is also new equipment essentially to the department. Like I'll note specifically like the traffic cones and the barricades. Oftentimes our emergency management section, when they go to set up a command post or staging area, they oftentimes have to rely on borrowing from other city departments, such as Department of Transportation or Street Services, which is an increased just sort of task and time allotment. And so acquiring some of these other additional items will not only give us the ability to do things more quickly and effectively ourselves, and not have to rely upon some of the other city departments. And then in addition, you also mentioned, for example, the communications. So listed on the second page, there's an item there about a third of the way down called Degero 211 with K cellular equipment. That's a piece of equipment that essentially takes all cellular signals, not just reliant upon one carrier, but it takes all of them. And my understanding is that it somehow aggregates them so that the signal that is used through that device is kind of, it's the best possible. So again, it gives our incident commanders and others running the incidents the ability to communicate well in those critical times.
Wonderful, thank you. That answers my question. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions for this item? Okay, thank you, Captain. With that, I would move that we approve the report and take the recommended board action in the agenda for item 4B. Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 4J. And Executive Director Sibley, are you the one that will be presenting on this item?
I can make some general comments, Commissioners. If you have detailed questions about the RFP, I have staff available as well.
Thank you. And my general question is just about the funding source and responsibility of actually having the commission take over this big assignment. So wanted to maybe if you could refresh our memory as to what this is and how we're planning on proceeding.
Yes, Commissioner. So the Responsible Hotel Ordinance was something that took effect in 2024, July 2024. The ordinance creates a permitting system for hotels and short-term rentals. And by short-term rentals, we mean things such as Airbnbs. The permitting system, as defined in this ordinance, would require the police commission to issue permits, investigate violations, and so on. As the commission has communicated to the city council previously, at the time the ordinance took effect, we did not have the resources to implement that system, other than accepting compliance registrations from hotel and short-term rental operators. No issuance of permits, though. This RFP would be for an online portal that would allow people to apply for permits, and where much of the clerical and administrative work in processing those permits would be carried out automatically. So with much lower staffing implications than we would currently be required to deploy to implement a permitting system. And as I mentioned, that's something that we have not had the resources to do to date. We did apply for funding in the budget last year. That was not ultimately approved by the City Council, and obviously any future implementation is going to be limited to the extent to which the City Council chooses to fund the implementation of the ordinance.
So this request is to allow or approve this request for proposal to get bids on this online portal tech, but we don't actually have any funding currently that has been designated or earmarked to pay for either the funding or the additional staffing resources that we would need to actually process the thousands of permits that would come through this system.
So for the staffing, first of all, the answer is no. We do currently spend money on a technology system that's quite antiquated, and that will be expiring. So whether that could be transferred to a new and updated system is something that would be something to consider. However, we don't have any specific funding for this as a standalone.
And issuing an RFP would not actually obligate the commission to accept any of the RFPs or commit to funding if we don't have it. Is that correct?
No, but what it would do is give us a sense of what's available and what those options would cost for future consideration of implementation.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Why request for proposal, not request for information or a different sort of type of presentation if we're not necessarily ready with funding to commit to something?
Well, the request that we had from City Council or from the Public Safety Committee was to issue a request for proposal. if implementation is, is contemplated, we would, I think, want to see what those proposals look like as opposed to just information.
The reason I bring it up is just if there's a difference in terms of the handling of the proposals, like the amount of work and responsiveness that we're obligated to provide to the proposers. If there is a difference in work on our end, then it may make sense to change the presentation of the request. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia, does your comments impact your ability to approve the current request that's in there? That is, it is floated as an RFP that would be issued.
Can we vote to pass with the explanation to see what makes the most sense?
Yeah, I'm going to have Lieutenant Moffett come and address that point. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Hi, good morning, Commissioner. Lieutenant Scott Moffett from Commission Investigation Division. So the reason to go to RFP rather than RFI is because it ultimately speeds up the process. Our permitting portal contract is going to expire. We're looking at probably about 9 months to a year outlay before we're going to be able to act on a contract, which puts us into a new budget cycle. Of course, once we submit this, if it takes a year, we'll have a better idea of the budget cycle. Going to RFI would lengthen that term by at least 3 to 6 months. And that way we're poised to act on either additional funding that's provided in next year's budget, or if our current system, we'd be able to piggyback on this RFP and potentially replace our currently antiquated, as the director said, the currently antiquated permitting portal.
Do we have any sense of the differences in costs from what we potentially would get in these bids? Do we have an idea of what that would be?
It's very difficult because we did initially do some information when we started exploring this, and we had bids coming in anywhere from $50,000 to upwards of $750 to $1 million. So the lake is very deep as far as what we could potentially see, but obviously the variability of the systems is considerable. Some are a lot more capable of querying different things like zoning and call our CAD system for how many calls have been at a certain location. So it can certainly cut out a ton of administrative work, but obviously we'd have to pay for that.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with that, I would make a motion that we approve item 4J and take the recommended board action. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you for those explanations. And let's, oh, sorry, I believe that was that item? 4J? Yes, and now we will move on to item 5B, the department's report relating to medical services at department jail facilities. Can you identify yourselves and let us know a little bit about this report?
Hi, good morning, Commissioner. Blake Chow, Commanding Officer, Support Services Group. To my left, I have Captain Sylvia Sanchez from our Custody Services Division. And I've got Dr. Manukian, who's our Chief Physician through Personnel Department, as well as Joanne O'Brien, the Medical Services Administrator for Medical Services Division. And before I pass this off to Captain Sanchez and our guests, I'd just like to make a few statements. The response that you have before you kind of stemmed from a city council motion that directed analysis on the impact of reducing or eliminating medical services at 2 jail facilities. That would be the Valley and 77th. The council motion was kind of made in response to a 2025-26 budget recommendation by the Medical Services Division of Los Angeles Personnel Department to reduce their budget. And I'll let them go into that in a little bit. But essentially discontinuing the medical services for LAPD and other arrestees at Valley Jail Section and 77th Jail Section would have a significant deleterious impact, negative impact upon our liability and a part of LAPD in the city. It would have an impact on police officers and the amount of time that it would take to process arrestees. Other agencies with which we have memorandums of understanding to accept bodies, the wellness of our custody services people, and also a potential city liability by potentially extending wait times for people that are arrestees that need to be seen with medical issues. So I'd like to turn this over to Captain Sanchez for more details regarding that, and then we'll pass it off to our guests.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Board of the Police Commissioners. Like my boss said, I'm Captain Sylvia Sanchez. I'm the Assistant Commanding Officer at Custody Services Division. The reason I'm here today is because I'm hoping to gain your support in the restoring the necessary funding and staffing to our essential partners to my left at Medical Services Division for the fiscal year of 2025-2026. I'm doing so with hope of maintaining essential healthcare services to our inmates at all 3 regional jails. This will enable Custody Service Division to adhere to Title 15 of the Department of Corrections regulations. The Department of Corrections has set minimum standards for local detention facilities that are level 1, which we are. In Article 11, subsection 1200 of Title 15, it defines the responsibility for healthcare services, and it states that each level 1 facility shall have at least 1 physician available at all times to treat all physical disorders. An example of why this is important is as follows. We recently had at 77th Regional Jail a senior detention officer who had an extreme emergency while on duty. The jail dispensary provided life-saving measures to our employee. This was especially important because the rescue ambulance took approximately 30 minutes to arrive to the jail. By all accounts at the hospital and our staff and our dispensary, Medical Services Division saved his life. This incident is important not because it was a detention officer, but because it's a human life that was saved. The fact of the matter is that our dispensary staff make the difference between life and death. During a critical incident in any of our jails, they mitigate potential life-threatening illnesses and keep inmates and detention officers safe alike. This is especially important due to the increase in the use of distribution of fentanyl within our city. Fentanyl has serious life-threatening effects and has made its way into our jails. Van Nuys Regional Jail 77th and Metropolitan Detention Center houses inmates for a period between 48 to 96 hours following booking and pre-arraignment. It is estimated that approximately 70% of all arrestees need medical treatment due to a variety of issues, as the majority of them are homeless, suffer from mental health, and or substance abuse. This is sometimes the only form of medical treatment that they will receive for years. In 2023, LAPD officers booked 41,605 bodies. 28,470 of them received medical treatment. That's 68.4% of the arrests. In 2024, LAPD officers booked 43,145 arrestees, and of which 70.1% received medical treatment. So this represents an increase of 6.3 that required medical treatment, and an increase of 3.7 arrests for the year. So we only expect the bookings and the need for medical treatment to increase in the year of 2025 to 2026. Closing the 2 jail dispensaries, as I made an analysis of it, result in the following: delays in providing the essential health care to arrestees and inmates, increase in the chance of severe injury and possible death to arrestees and detention officers, increase in the time required to book an arrestee, increase in overtime costs for the department for the officers that are waiting for medical treatment for their bodies, increase in travel time for patrol officers, which increases the chance of them getting involved in a traffic collision. And if they have a combative arrestee, it increases their chance of engaging in a use of force while they're en route. Also, more gas required for the patrol car to get to its destination, wear and tear, and then the lack of patrol cars available to the oncoming watches because they're at the jail. The increase in response to radio calls due to officers waiting at our jails for medical treatment, increase in the liability to the city in terms of lawsuits related to delays in the booking process as it relates to the 4th and 14th Amendment, which state that we can't do unreasonable searches or seizures, and the right to due process without a delay. In addition to the stress of the employees working in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who will have a heavily increased load of processing and booking and arrestees that they need to care and house at one particular jail. Currently, medical treatment can take a couple of hours to a few hours. So if you close one dispensary down, that's going to double that time. If you close both dispensaries down, that's going to likely triple that time. I would like to remind the board that the LAPD has a memorandum of agreements with other departments such as Airport PD, CHP, and Glendale PD, just to name a few. In conclusion, I cannot stress the importance of restoring the funding for MSD and staffing. It will have a cumulative negative effect across the board for the department, our arrestees and inmates, our employees, and the community as a whole. I will now pass it over to our partners at MSD, who are essential and who can dive deeper into the numerous added responsibilities that they have during their shifts, in addition to the screening of incoming arrestees.
Do you have any questions before I jump in and sort of give a little bit of history of how we got here? With medical services as part of the personnel department. We're not part of LAPD, we're a separate department. And in 2008, when we had the early retirement packages, a lot of the physician and provider positions were deleted. As the years gone by with these budgetary challenges, more deletions occurred. So how we survived is using as needed positions. Our staffing model is 2 nurses and 1 provider, which could be an advanced practice provider or a physician assistant or a physician. That's our model. We're 24/7 at the 3 regional jails. Right now, as our staffing sits, we have only 50% of the full-time providers that we need. So how we have survived is with per diem dollars. What's different in this year, not only did they delete the vacant positions, they also decreased the department's as needed dollars by 50%. So $1.2 million went away. So in order for us to stay within our budget is we can operate keeping all 3 of the dispensaries open until January. So we did our budgetary exercise, and in order to stay open the whole year, we can only keep 1 dispensary open, and that's MDC because it's centrally located. So we would very much like the restoration of the funding and the positions. I might add that why they sweep these positions is they're difficult to fill. Physicians, nurses, we all know there's a national shortage, but our positions are not funded as well as the community. And I'll give you an example. A per diem doctor can go over to Twin Towers, the county, and make $200 an hour. That same doctor could come to us and make $111. So that's our battle. And just because the position is vacant doesn't mean it's not needed. To add to the captain, and thank you for your kind words, our staff does a phenomenal job. They quietly show up, they do their job, and they do it well with very few blips, even to be commended by our city attorneys. So they make it happen. We're really not allowed the overtime. They don't want to work the overtime, so it's it's a dance that the medical services staff, that Dr. Manukian challenges every single day. You know, we hold our breath if there's a call off. And to just add to the point of the wait, not only do we clear people when they come in who are underserved, usually have substance abuse problems, mental health problems, unhoused, they don't have access to care. So in minutes, we sum up what's wrong with this person who is usually uncooperative. So it's very, very, very high risk. So we are very much needed. They do a good job. We do about 1,000 medical treatments a month at each jail. You know, and not only do we do the intake, we also have to care for them once they're in housing. So they're in the door, but they all need follow-up. A lot of them are withdrawing. We have to make sure that that's managed, that it doesn't turn into a medical emergency. They also have the chronic diseases that all of the community has. They have, of course, you know, the asthma, hypertension, diabetes. That's usually unmanaged. So in addition to them withdrawing or their mental health issues, we're also helping them with those chronic diseases. I don't know if you want to add anything, Dr. Manukian?
Hi.
this is not my usual audience, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But you heard from the legal standpoint, you heard from management. I'll just give you just medical view of it. We have 3 clinics, as you know. They all work 365 days a year, 24/7 operation. We over the years, we do not have full-time physicians because of the budget cuts and attrition. Our full-time providers are nurse practitioners or PAs. We have probably, we use them 50% of the time. The other 50 or 60% of the time we use as needed people. As needed people predominantly now are R3 or, I'm sorry, postgraduate resident 3 of emergency medicine at UCLA or USC. So just think of it this way. It's a very efficient business model, medical and community service, because if, as Captain mentioned, all these people are going to go to the emergency room to be cleared. It's a low acuity in medical world. I mean, they're not bleeding, obviously. The gunshot wounds don't come to us. But chronic diseases that they need management, diabetes, hypertension out of control, mental disorders, come to us. Instead, they would have gone to emergency room. Because of the low priority of low acuity, they will be sitting, and so accompanied by police officers for probably around 6 to 7 hours to get the stamp in the chart and be sent back to us. We utilize the same emergency medicine physicians on our end. So instead of people going to be seen by emergency physician at UCLA or any hospital, they see the same quality care at our end. So we prevent unnecessary visits. We prevent unnecessary wait time. We prevent police officers being tied up in the hospital babysitting someone. So to me, and it's always been, even when you work in the hospital, there is always a conflict between business needs and medical patient care. We address both. We address business needs because we, at the long run, save the money, and we provide very efficient medical care without uptunding, without sending people to the hospital when real patients or when patients in real need to be seen, and instead we're congesting the hospital emergency rooms with unnecessary wait times. To me, that represents a very cost-efficient model, and that's why we are asking you to consider, since you control the purse or you have the influence over the purse, we're asking you to consider restoring the budget. Thank you.
Commissioner, if I could just add, just to put it in numerical perspective, and just to add what everybody said here, in 2024, there were 10,000 medical bookings at the Valley Jail section and almost 8,000 at 77th Regional Jail. So you can imagine if that closed, you would have 17,000 medical bookings all being sent to MDC. And so I guess what the purpose of this report is support when we go across the street to City Council to say, hey, they need to restore the funding so we can keep these open.
And one last thing, I know it was floated out there in a report that they have 100 nurses. They don't. They have 25 full-time nurses. The other 75 are on call, and that comes from their budget that they actually had a reduction of 1.567 million this year. That was reduced. That's per diem, per day nurses. So they only have 25. They don't have 100. 75 are on standby, and we've reduced that budget by over 1.5 million. Plus, we took 4 positions away from them. So I know nobody ever asked them, hey, why aren't these positions filled, and do you need them? They just cut them. So I think in the future we should probably ask the why first before we delete them, because they are first responders just like we are. And just because we don't meet our threshold of 10,000 doesn't mean we need less officers. Likewise with our nurses and our doctors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have some questions, but I'll turn it over to my fellow commissioners first. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Thanks so much. I feel to do this all the time. Thank you very much for your report, Dr. Manukian. It's a pleasure to meet you in person and hear your report. I think each of the reports was very compelling. Chief Chow, it's good to see you too. And I really don't have any questions. I think it was very complete, very informative. I very much support the restoring of funding and the position, so you have my vote.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
all.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah, same. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the report. I will approve it, and I do want to see how we can potentially add, or maybe it's just when you present it, is really talking about the return on investment, right? Because you present the need for it in terms of people and urgency and time, but the motion is probably more focused on the budget side of things. And so if we can include, again, either in the report, some very specific numbers around the actual rate of return here, right? To your point of officers waiting 6 hours at an emergency room, how much more is that going to cost the city across the board, in addition to the people portion of it? So if we can add something like that, either in the report to capture that, or just in your presentation, ensuring that we are emphasizing some of those budgetary portions of it. Thank you.
And thank you for the department for the report, and also for Medical Services Division. You all do such a specialized service that, you know, it's not something that can be replicated, and not even all healthcare professionals are willing and able to treat those people who are in the care and custody of the department. And we have to remember, well, I know we're talking numbers and figures and all of that stuff, but we are talking about people's lives that could be impacted if they do not get the health treatment that they need, whether it's they're diabetic or they have something that they need, some medicine right away that a doctor can identify, and then that person who is just accused of a crime can, you know, have very negative consequences, including death, because they're not getting the treatment that they need immediately. And then that goes to the city having to face, you know, liability, officers having to feel like, oh my God, did I do something wrong? All of these things, that's the human element of all of the numbers that we're talking about. So thank you, Medical Services Division, for all that you have been doing on a regular basis, serving this very important thing, and the importance of the health and welfare of the people that are in the care and custody of the department cannot be understated. And then we also get into the very practical sense of, we hear the community saying we need more people on patrol, yet this will take away more people on patrol for hours, not being able to respond to community concerns. That also impacts morale, that also impacts recruiting. It's the whole, it is a parade of horribles when you take away this very necessary function. And then that also will increase overtime. So even if it may end up saving some money in the short term, it ends up costing the city more in the long term. And these are things and positions that really can't be refilled easily. So I wholeheartedly support this and everything that you all are doing to take care of those in the custody and control of the department. So thank you so much. So with that, I would move that we adopt the report, approve the report, and take the recommended action. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you all so much, and good luck before City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the commission will now recess into closed session to discuss items 6A1 and 6A2.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda item 6A1, 6A2 in accordance with Government Code 54957.
The commission has returned from closed session, and will ask the executive director, Mr. Sibley, to please report on the closed session items.
Thank you, Commissioner. So item 6A, at the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on August 19th, 2025, during the closed session, the board made the following findings by a 3-0 vote. So 6A1, which is officer-involved shooting 045-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. And moving on to item 6A2, which is a non-tactical unintentional discharge, case number 046-24. Also by a 3-0 vote, the findings were as follows. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 Sergeant 1. And for unintentional discharge, administrative disapproval, negligent discharge, 1 Sergeant 1. And that concludes the readout, Commissioner.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda. I move to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.